pwede mo maistorya na sir kung ano rayang klaseng nga submarine?
Ang AUKUS ay itinatag noong September 2021 sa pamagitan ng Amerika, President Joe Biden, yung former Prime Minister ng Australia, Scott Morrison, and the former British Prime Minister Boris Johnson. So ngayon, itinuloy ito after 2 years. Binigay ng American yung blessing. This is the first time in 65 years na ibibigay ng Amerika ang technology nuclear propulsion. Ibig sabihin yung makina ng submarino, isang nuclear. At pangalawang bansa pa lamang ang Australia na bibigyan ito after ng United Kingdom. Ginawa ito ng Amerika kasi yung threat ng China against Taiwan and the Asia-Pacific region. So pang-pitong bansa pa lang ang Australia na magkakaroon ng nuclear attack submarine. Kaya lang among the 7, tatawag niya ang Australia kasi itong Australia walang nuclear arms capability. So ito ay nuclear propulsion. Ibig sabihin, makina. Yung current Australian fleet na 6 na Collins class submarine, ito ay limited sa range at saka sa biyahe Bobo Darwin. Bigyan kita ng example, yung current Collins class submarine ng Australia, pag galing Sydney, Australia, papuntang Hawaii, it will take 30 days. Itong upcoming nuclear submarine, ang tawag ito is AUKUS class, ito ay magta-travel lamang from Sydney to Hawaii in 10 days. Ang tanging limit nito is human endurance. So ibig sabihin, kaya nitong ilalim ng tubig forever.
I see. Oo, grabe pala itong ano no, bagong submarine na ito na ibibigay sa inyo ng galing ito sa US sir. Ibinigay sa Australia.
Hindi ito libre, Bombo Darwin. Bali, Australia will spend 257 billion US dollars, so equivalent ito sa 14 trillion pesos, enough to pay the current Philippine debt. Ibig sabihin, yung utang ng Pilipinas, kayang-kaya bayaran sa laki ng budget na ito. Ito ay gagawin the span of 30 years.
I see. Okay, so parang ano, pero itong ano na to, submarine sir, ay galing ito ng ano, US.
Itong submarine ito na ati sa dalawa, bali may capability gap na tinatawag. Ibig sabihin kasi itong British design submarine, ito ay ilalabas lamang by 2040 kasi nasa drawing board pa. Nag-retire itong current class, Collins class submarine ng Australia by 2036. Meron kami capability gap. So bibili kami ng second-hand Virginia class attack submarine from the US. Ito ay binigyan ng blessing ng Amerika, 3 boats, and possible may 2 pang boats na bibilin. So total of 5 boats potentially while waiting dito sa AUKUS class submarine na ito ay British design pero with American combat management system.
I see. Sige po. Balikan ko kayo sir Bombo Denmark, Swedish sir. I-check man naton sa piyakarang nga linya mga kabombo naka-standby aro aton nga Bombo International Correspondent sa bahin mata na iti Estados Unidos si Bombo Greg Aguilar. Sir Bombo Greg, mayad-ayad nga adlaw man kimo na sa Estados Unidos.
Yes, good afternoon Bombo Darwin, and mayad-ayad nga hapon sa mga listeners at Bombo Kalibo Radio.
Oo. Sir Greg, makaron yata may ginpatigayon o makaron nga adlaw may ginpatigayon nga seremonya una sa Estados Unidos iday karang nga 3 ka nasyon sa pag grant itdayang kuan nga ra sangka submarine para sa Australia. So ano ro nagtabo na makaron sa Estados Unidos, Sir Greg?
Yes, you're correct, Bombo Darwin. Here's the latest from the Los Angeles Times. President Biden appeared at the naval shipyard here in San Diego on Monday afternoon with his British and Australian counterparts to announce a major new plan to supply Australia with nuclear-powered submarines in what amounts to a direct counter to China's growing influence in the region. Standing with British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak and Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese, Biden unveiled the details of the arrangement at a time of rising tensions with China. The agreement is a substantial one, as Australia over the next several decades will be spending more than $100 billion to buy the submarines and build up its own industrial capacity. Biden said the landmark agreement was critical for the security of the Indo-Pacific. This first project is only the beginning, he said. More partnerships, more potential for peace and security in the region lies ahead. The agreement is intended to bolster the military capabilities of U.S. allies in the Indo-Pacific, deepen ties between Australian and American militaries, and enhance the American force posture in the region. The arrangement, which comes as part of the AUKUS Security Pact, short for Australia, UK, US, is the culmination of 1.5 years of negotiations. The US will initially sell Australia 3 Virginia-class attack submarines with an option to buy 2 more at a cost of about $3 billion each. The aim is for the first submarine to be delivered in 2032. After that, Australia will buy a British-designed nuclear-powered sub to be called the SSN AUKUS that will include substantial US technology. Will be built in the UK, with Australia eventually developing the capacity to build its own version in the 2040s. The AUKUS deal is important to Biden, who sought to reorient US foreign policy toward confronting China.
Okay, so ibig sabihin nito, Sir Greg, ay pagpapakita ito ng puwersa, no, ng tatlong ano na ito, malalaking bansa, at posible maka-intimidate ito sa China, itong kuwan na ito, nagiging aksyon ng tatlong mga bansa na ito, yung sa AUKUS.
Actually, it's more global. You know, like Japan is increasing its budget higher than what it has been doing since World War II. Germany is increasing its military budget to close to 2% of GDP, and the rest of NATO is rearming. A lot of it is because, number one, of Russian invasion of Ukraine. And of course, China has been threatening our allies in the region. So what Biden is an internationalist as opposed to Trump. Trump is a U.S. first president. He is an isolationist. Biden is the opposite. Biden would like to develop alliances all over the world. So in the Indo-Pacific region, the important allies are Australia, India, Japan, and now the Philippines. The Philippines, we don't really have a lot of military capabilities, but our location is strategic. And the Philippines will be opening 3 to 4 military bases for the U.S. military to use, and maybe even Japanese military. So that's what's important. China, I think, what China is looking at what's happening in Ukraine. It's not easy. It's easy to start a war. It's difficult to win or complete it. So if they start a war by invading Taiwan, it doesn't necessarily mean that China will win, because what Ukraine did to Russia, Taiwan could also do to China, assuming all of the U.S. and its allies would help Taiwan.